students, myself Mohammad Badshah. Let us do the revision of elasticity of demand. Okay, so elasticity of demand. What do you mean by elasticity of demand? Elasticity of demand is nothing but we try to measure the change in demand due to change in its determinants. Okay, so demand changes due to several factors. In theory of demand, we just learned about the direction change. So what is the relationship between determinant and demand, whether it's direct or inverse? But there we did not try to measure the change. We did not try to measure the change. But Alfred Marshall realized that for a producer, in order for this topic to be useful for a producer, it should be measured. The change in demand should be measured. A producer would like to know because of what factor how much demand is changing. So in order to help a producer, what Alfred Marshall did is that he introduced this topic now, that is elasticity of demand. In elasticity of demand, we try to measure the change in demand due to change in its determinants. Since theory of demand and law of demand just explains the direction change, it is called as quantitative statement. Law of demand is called as quantitative statement. But when it comes to elasticity of demand, here we are trying to measure it, right? So it is called as quantitative statement. Now, since we are trying to measure it, it is called as quantitative statement. Okay, so what is the definition of elasticity of demand? Elasticity of demand is defined as responsiveness of the quantity demanded of the good to change in one of the variables. So as the variables keep on changing, what is the change, what is the percentage change in demand? Here responsiveness means we are trying to calculate the change in terms of percentage. Okay, so there are several variables because of demand changes. It may be price of the commodity, price of related goods, income of the consumer, advertisement, etc. So we try to study if determinants change by 1%, what will be the percentage change in demand? If determinants change by 1%, what will be the percentage change in demand? Okay, so basically, what are the concepts that we study under elasticity of demand? So basically, elasticity of demand, in elasticity of demand, we study 4 types of elasticities now. That is price elasticity, cross elasticity, income elasticity, and advertisement elasticity of demand. Okay, right now. So generally, if in bits, it is given as elasticity of demand. He is talking about price elasticity of demand. In other cases, they will mention specifically, that is calculate cross elasticity of demand or income. They will mention this specifically. If he wants to calculate as cross elasticity of demand, he will mention cross elasticity of demand. If he wants to calculate income elasticity of demand, he will mention income elasticity of demand. But instead of asking price elasticity of demand, he may simply ask us to calculate elasticity of demand. So elasticity of demand or price elasticity of demand is same in terms of bits now. Elasticity of demand and price elasticity of demand are same in terms of bit. So first one is the price elasticity of demand. Okay, first one is the price elasticity of demand. Right. So in theory of demand, we studied about price, demand, cross demand, and income demand. Okay, right. For price demand, we use price elasticity of demand. For cross demand, we use cross elasticity of demand. For income demand, we use income, elasticity of demand. And apart from these three, we also have advertisement elasticity of demand. Advertisement elasticity demand. So first one is price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand. So what is meant by price elasticity of demand, sir? Price elasticity of demand, also denoted as E suffix P or E suffix T. Okay, right. Here we try to measure percentage change in demand due to 1% change in price. So if price changes by 1%, what will be the change in demand? What will be the change in demand? So the basic formula for this one is price elasticity of demand is percentage change in demand divided by percentage change in price. We know that the relationship between price of a commodity and demand for a commodity is inverse, right? Is inverse or negative. So when the relationship between determinant and demand is inverse, the elasticity value will also be negative now. So as the relationship between price and demand of a commodity is inverse or negative, the price elasticity value lies between minus infinity and 0. But sometimes it is difficult to compare the negative values and tell which one is the greater value and which one is the lesser one. Lesser value. Okay, we may get confused now. So Alfred Marshall also got confused in the same way, and what he decided is that since we are getting negative value, whatever the price elasticity, we will get the negative value. So in order to overcome this confusion, he ignored negative sign. The Alfred Marshall, he ignored negative sign and said that price elasticity value lies between infinity and 0. So we ignored negative sign and said that price elasticity value lies between, it is 0 and infinity. Okay, so the value will be generally 0 less than or equal to price elasticity less than or equal to infinity now. Okay, the value will be. So we are ignoring negative sign for our convenience. So you people have to remember, Nana, if in bits, while doing bits, generally we get negative sign. After calculating the price elasticity, we will get negative sign. If in options negative value is given, we have to choose negative value. If negative value is not given, then only we will choose positive value. Okay, if in options after calculating price elasticity, if I get -1, in options if -1 is given, I will choose -1. If in options -1 is not given and +1 is given, if -1 is not given, +1 is given, then I will choose +1. So first preference should be given to minus value. So with this we came to know that the price elastic value lies between 0 and infinity. So the value can be 0, less than 1, equal to 1, greater than 1, and infinity. Okay, so when the price elastic value is 0, what it is called? When the price elastic value less than what it is called? When the price elastic value is equal to 1, what it is called? So we will look into it, right? Okay, right now. So as you can see here, price elasticity of demand means we measure the degree of responsiveness. Nothing but percentage change. Degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a product to the change in its price. Other things are constant. So here other factors will be constant. When I am talking about price is the only factor which affects the demand. Other factors are constant. So it is the percentage change in demand due to 1% change in price. So as the relationship between price and quantity is inverse, strictly speaking, the value lies between minus infinity and 0, minus infinity and 0. But for the sake of convenience, negative sign for the sake of convenience, the negative sign is being ignored, and we are treating it as the value lies between 0 and infinity, 0 and infinity. Okay. So when we have this formula, right? Price elasticity equal to percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price. When you expand this entire formula, we will get this formula. We will get this one. Okay, we will get the formula. It is this one. Delta Q by delta P into P by Q. Delta Q means change in quantity. Delta P means change in price into P by Q. Okay, right. Next now, types are decay. So as a value of price elasticity lies between 0 and infinity, the value can be 0, less than 1, equal to 1, greater than 1, or infinity. So when the value is 0, let us see what will be what we call it. So when the value is 0, we call it perfectly inelastic or completely inelastic. Now it means even though when there is change in price, there will be no change in demand. Even though when there is change in price, there is no change in demand. The quantity demanded will not respond to changes in price. In this case, the demand curve will be parallel to y-axis, and the type of good which have perfectly inelastic demand is life-saving drugs. So graph will be like this. So when the price elasticity value is 0, that is it is perfectly inelastic, the graph will be like this. It is parallel to y-axis, Okay, right. Next, less than 1. When the price elasticity value is less than 1, when the price elasticity value is less than 1, it is called as relatively inelastic or simply inelastic. That means percentage change in quantity demanded is less than percentage change in percentage change in price. In this case, the demand curve will be steeper, and the type of goods which have relatively inelastic demand are necessities like food, fuel, etc. So the demand curve will be like this. Demand curve will be like this now. Okay, so as you can see here, the change in demand is less than change in price. So when compared to change in price, the change in demand is very less. Okay, the demand curve will be steeper. Next now, and when the price elasticity value is equal to 1, it is called as unitary elastic. That is, change in quantity demand is equal to change in price. Change in quantity demanded is equal to change in price now. In this case, the demand curve will be rectangular hyperbola, and the type of goods which have unitary elastic demand is comforts. So rectangular hyperbola or convex. Okay, all right. So the demand curve is okay. It is rectangular hyperbola convex. So as you can see that the change in demand and change in price are equal here. Okay. Next, if the price elasticity value is greater than 1, it is called as relatively elastic or simply elastic. This means that change in quantity demanded is greater than change in price. In this case, the demand curve will be slant or flatter, and the type of good which have relatively elastic demand is luxuries. Okay, luxuries. Okay, right. So the demand curve will be slanter. So as you can see here, the change in demand is more than change in price. Next, when the price elasticity value is infinite, it is called as perfectly elastic. It is called as perfectly elastic or infinite elastic. That means even though if there is minute increase in price, no one is going to buy that commodity, and if the price falls minutely, even though when there is small fall in price, all the people are going to buy that commodity now. So buyers are prepared to buy all they can obtain at some price and none at even slightly higher prices. So if prices increase slightly also, no one is going to buy that commodity. If prices fall slightly also, all the people are going to buy that commodity. Since all the people, we cannot quantify, right, all the people, that's why we are giving the value as infinite now. So in this case, the demand curve will be parallel to x-axis, and the type of good which have this perfectly elastic demand is imaginary. That means no good has this perfectly elastic demand now. Okay, so demand curve will be parallel to x-axis. Example for this good is imaginary example. Nana. If let us take an imaginary example. If the price of a item increases from 10 rupees to 10 rupees 1 paisa, no one is going to buy it. And if price decreases from 10 rupees to 9 rupees 99 paisa, everyone is going to buy it. Okay, that's why there will be hardly any change in price, Nana, but there will be infinite change in demand. That's why the demand curve will be parallel to x-axis. Okay, so this is the different types of price elasticity. It can be 0, less than 1, equal to 1, greater than 1, or infinite. 0 means we call it as perfectly inelastic. Less than 1 means relatively inelastic or inelastic. Equal to 1 means inter-elastic demand. Greater than 1 means relatively elastic or elastic simply. Infinite means perfectly elastic now. If the price elastic value is infinite, then it's perfectly elastic. So we have different methods of measurement of price elasticity of demand. We have different methods for measurement of price elasticity of demand. Methods for measurement of price elasticity of demand. Okay, methods for measurement of price elasticity of demand. Basically, we have 4 methods now. First one is point method. Second one is percentage method. Percentage method. Third one is total outlay or expenditure method. Outlay and expenditure are one and the same, both are synonyms. Next, arc method. Arc method. So point method, when we use point method, first method is point method, right? So it is used when change in price is very small or infinitesimal. Very small or infinitesimal. Or to find elasticity at particular point on demand curve. To find elasticity at particular point on demand curve. So point method is used it is used to find out elasticity at a particular point on demand curve and when the change in price is very small. Okay, right now. And in point method, basically we have 2 formulas. In point method, in order to calculate elasticity, basically we have 2 formulas. One is derivative, and one is segment. So derivative formula means that is EP equal to dq by dp into p by q. Segment means we use the formula lower segment by upper segment. Okay, lower segment by upper segment. Okay, right. So let us see the point method. Methods of measurement of price elasticity. First one is point method. So this point method was suggested by Alfred Marshall. It is used to calculate elasticity at a point on the demand curve. It is used to calculate a particular point on the demand curve. It is also called as geometric method. Okay, Nana. So point elasticity is used for measuring price elasticity when the change in price is infinitesimal. So for these 2 reasons, that is, in order to calculate elasticity at a particular point on the demand curve or when the change in price is very small, infinitesimal, we use point method. Nana. Okay, so the basic formula, the basic formula that we use in point method is derivative. It is EP equal to delta Q by delta P into P by Q, where dP by dQ is nothing but derivative of demand function, and Q is nothing but quantity, P is nothing but price, and Q is nothing but original quantity. Okay, right. So point elasticity is nothing but basing on this formula, we can say that point elasticity is nothing but product of price quantity ratio at a particular point on the demand curve, and we should write here and. So instead of dividing the sentence here, we should write and. So point elasticity is nothing but the product of price quantity ratio at a particular point on the demand curve, and particular point on the demand curve and the reciprocal of the slope of demand line. So there is a small correction here. Point elasticity is the product of price quantity ratio at a particular point on the demand curve and the reciprocal of the slope of demand line. So as you can see here, in point method for derivative we use this formula, that is EP equal to dQ by dP into P by Q, right? So this is nothing but product. P by Q means price quantity ratio. It's a product of price quantity ratio at a particular point of the demand curve, and this is a reciprocal of slope of demand curve. Sir, how can you say that dQ by dP is the reciprocal of slope of demand curve? Right now, while on y-axis we take price, right? While drawing demand curve, on y-axis we take price, and on x-axis we take quantity. This is the demand curve. So for the slope formula for any curve will be slope y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. So on y-axis we are taking price, right? So P2 minus P1 by Q2 minus Q1. Nothing but delta P by delta Q. Delta, we can write this as dP by dQ, right? So it's nothing but 1 by dP by dQ. It is dQ by dP. So this and this are one and the same. So dQ by dP is nothing but reciprocal. This is the slope formula. Slope of demand curve is this one. So reciprocal of slope is dQ by dP. dQ by dP. Okay. All right. In point method, under point method, the elasticity will be different. Under point method, the elasticity will be different at different points on the demand curve. So as you can see here, when the demand curve touches x-axis, the elasticity value will be 0. When the demand curve touches y-axis, the elasticity value will be infinite. When the elasticity value at when the demand curve touches x-axis, the elasticity value will be 0, and the demand curve touches y-axis, the elasticity value will be infinite. At midpoint, the elasticity value will be equal to 1. Between 0 and 1, it will be less than 1. Between 1 and infinity, it will be greater than 1. So under point method, we can mention elasticity at different points on the demand. As a point change, the elasticity value also changes now. As a point change, the elasticity value also changes. So from the graph, given the straight line demand curve is Tt, we can use another formula also to calculate price elasticity under point method, that is lower segment by upper segment, CD by CD nano. That is from the below graph. So you can see that demand curve is DD and we have a point C. Okay, so when the demand curve is curvilinear, we will draw a line tangent to that curve and we try to find an elasticity for this straight line. So whatever the elasticity for the straight line will be same to the demand curve, we will say the curvilinear also. So in order to calculate elasticity at point C, we will use this formula, that is lower segment by upper segment, So then we can calculate elasticity, then we can find out elasticity at point C. Okay, so as you can see here, elasticity at the midpoint is 1. At any point below the midpoint, let's say L, is less than 1. Any point above the midpoint, say greater than 1. Where a point touches x-axis, elastic value is 0. Where the point touches y-axis, elastic value is infinite. So as we have seen this already in the graph. Okay, right, Anna. As we move downwards, elastic will decrease, and as we move upwards, the elastic will increase. So as we move along the demand curve, the elastic value keeps on changing, Nana. So when we move upward, the elastic value increases, and when we move downward, the elastic value decreases. Okay, so as we move upwards along the demand curve, the elastic value increases. As we move downwards along the demand curve, the elastic value decreases. Okay, that is what he has explained here. It is true for any demand curve, whether linear or curve, whether it's a straight line or curve. It is true. This point method applies to a straight line or a curve. In case of a non-linear curve, that is, if it is a curve, draw a tangent to it at the given point, then measure the elasticity with the same formula. So when the demand curve is a curve, Nana, we need to draw a tangent line to the point where we need to find out elasticity, and we can use the above mentioned formula. Okay, this is point method, Nana. Next one is proportionate method or percentage method. So as you can see, Nana, we have here different methods, right? Different methods. So point method is used to calculate elasticity at a particular point of the demand curve. Percentage method and arc method is used to calculate elasticity. Between 2 points on the demand curve. Okay. So to calculate elasticity at a particular point of the demand curve, we use this point method, Nana. But we need to calculate, when we need to calculate elasticity between 2 points on the demand curve, we use percentage method or arc method. We can use percentage method or arc method. Yes. So percentage method is also called as proportionate method or flux method, ratio method, arithmetic method. This is also given by Alfred Marshall, Nana. So the formula for this method is the formula which we already know, that is dq by dp into p by q. dq by dp into p by q. Okay, right. Now we have to remember one thing, that when we're calculating elasticity between 2 points on the demand curve, first preference is to be given to arc method. So when we have to use the arc method, Nana. If the answer is not present in the options, Nana, that we got from arc method, then we need to go to percentage method. First we have to use arc method. If the answer that we get from arc method is not present in the options, then we need to go to percentage method. Now, right. Second one is total outlay method or expenditure method. It is also suggested by Marshall, Nana. In this, we try to explain the relationship between price and total revenue or expenditure, and basing on the relationship between price and total expenditure, total revenue, Nana, we will define whether it is elastic, unilateral or inelastic, Nana. So total expenditure means price into quantity purchased by the consumer. Total revenue means price into quantity sold by the seller, Nana. The same amount will be expenditure for consumer and revenue for the seller. So if I am buying a commodity for 100 rupees, it will be that 100 rupees will be expenditure for me, and that 100 rupees will be revenue for the seller, Nana. Okay, so as the point of view changes, the wording changes, but the relationship will be the same. Nana. If I am talking about consumer point of view, I will take expenditure. If I am talking about producer point of view, I will take revenue. But the relationship between price and total, whatever the relationship exists between price and total revenue, the same will exist between price and total expenditure. Okay, right now. But there is a drawback in this method. That is, in this method we can only explain whether the price is elastic. It is wrong, Nana. Here it should be greater than 1. Okay, and here it should be less than 1. Okay, right now. So in this method we can explain only whether the price elasticity is elastic or inelastic or equal to 1, but we cannot define the exact value, but not the exact value. Okay, but not the exact value now. Okay, that is, we can say whether it is greater than or less than 1, but greater than 1 how much we can't say it using this method now. So relationship between, basing on the relationship between price and total revenue or expenditure, we will define whether the value is elastic or inelastic. Let us see the relationship now. So total outlay method, Nana. So we are basing on the relationship between price total revenue or total expenditure define whether the values are elastic or inelastic. So if there is a inverse relationship between the two, then the value will be greater than 1. If there is a direct relationship between price and total revenue, then it will be less than 1. Even though with a change in price there is no change in total revenue expenditure, it will be equal to 1. A simple concept now. If there is a direct relationship between the two, then it will, if there is a inverse relationship, if there is an inverse relationship between the two, then the price elastic value will be greater than 1. If there is a direct relationship between price and total revenue or expenditure, then the elastic value is less than 1. With a change in price, if there is no change in total revenue or expenditure, then the price elastic value will be equal to 1. Then the price elastic value will be equal to 1. Okay. So this is all about total outlay method, Nana. Total outlay method. Okay, right. Next, ARC method. So since as there is percentage method to calculate elasticity between 2 points on the demand curve, why are we using ARC method? Nana, first thing, ARC method is used to calculate, so point method is used to calculate elasticity at a particular point on the demand curve or when the change in price is very small. But when the change in price is somewhat larger or considerable, change in price, when the change in price is somewhat larger or considerable, we use ARC method, or to calculate elasticity between 2 points, we use ARC method now. But in percentage method, the problem is that when 2 points are given, there is a confusion. Which point is to be considered as base? Which point is to be considered as base? To overcome this confusion, Alfred Marshall gave this ARC method. It is also called as midpoint method. Instead of sticking on to a particular point as we did in point method, here what he does is that he takes the average of the two. He takes the average of the two, that is change in demand divided by, instead of just taking original demand, he will take new demand also, and change in price by, instead of taking original price, he will take new price also. That is in percentage method, EP means change in quantity divided by original quantity by change in price divided by original price. So when 2 points are given, there will be confusion or ambiguity whether to choose X as original base or X as original or X1 as original. Okay, and Y as original or Y1 as original. So there is a confusion in percentage method. Now, to overcome this confusion in ARC method, what we did is EP equal to delta Q by Q1 plus Q2 by 2 by delta P by P1 plus P2 by 2. So we have taken average. Instead of taking original quantity, original price, to overcome that confusion completely, we have taken the average of the 2 points now. Average of the 2 points. So this will become as delta Q by delta P into P1 plus P2 by Q1 plus Q2. So when compared to percentage method, in ARC method we will get accurate elasticities. So that's why while calculating price elasticity between 2 points on the demand curve, we need to use ARC method rather than percentage method. So as you can see here, the formula. So price elasticity equal to, price elasticity can be represented as E suffix P or E suffix D. So Q2 minus Q1 by P2 minus P1 into P1 plus P2 by Q1 plus P2, or Q1 minus Q2 by Q1 plus Q2 into P1 plus P2 by P1 minus P2. So whatever the formula, we can use it. Okay. So these are the 4 different methods using which we can calculate price elasticity of demand. Right, Nana. Next, Nana, determinants of price elasticity of demand. So what do you mean by determinants of price elasticity of demand? There are several factors which affect the price elasticity of demand. That means as these factors change, the price elasticity of demand also changes. It can become elastic right? It can become elastic or inelastic. So depending on these determinants, we can define whether the price elasticity of demand will be greater than 1, that is elastic, or price elasticity of demand will be less than 1, that is inelastic. So availability of substitutes. If there are close or perfect substitutes, the price elasticity value will be greater than 1. And if there are no substitutes, the price elasticity value is less than 1. Because if a good has substitute, an increase in price of the good will force the consumer to shift to cheaper alternatives. Suppose Pepsi and Coke. Pepsi has substitutes, right? Pepsi is a cool drink or soft drink. It has substitutes in the market. So if the price of Pepsi increases, there is no need for the consumer to keep consuming Pepsi, and he will shift to cheaper alternatives. So there will be considerable change in demand of Pepsi. That's why price elasticity will be greater than 1. And if there are no substitutes, the consumer will have no other option but to keep consuming Pepsi. So the price elasticity will be less than 1. In case of a product, the price elasticity will be less than 1, that is inelastic. And in case of a brand, the price elasticity of demand will be greater than 1, that is elastic. Example, petrol is a product, it has no other alternatives. So the demand for petrol is inelastic. We have to use petrol. If I have a bag, I have to use petrol because I can't use water or diesel in my bike, right? I don't have any other alternative. But when it comes to brand, there are different petrol brands. There are different petrol suppliers in the market, that is Indian Oil, Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, Reliance Petroleum, SR Petroleum. So I can use either Indian Oil Petroleum or Reliance Petroleum. If the price of Indian Oil Petroleum is more than the price of Reliance Petroleum, then definitely people will shift to Reliance Petroleum. So when it comes to brand, the demand will be elastic. Same it comes to salt also. So salt is a product. It doesn't have any other alternative. We have to use salt in food items. So as there are no alternatives, the demand for a product will be inelastic. But there are different brands of salt in the market, that is Ashirwad salt, ITC salt, Tata salt. A person can shift from one brand to another brand, right? So for a brand, the demand will be elastic. Next. Second determinant is the nature of the need that a commodity is satisfied. So what type of want a commodity satisfied? If the goods are necessaries, we have to consume it even though when there is change in price. So with even the price of a necessary changes, there will be very small or negligible change in demand. That's why the demand will be inelastic, less than 1. But when it comes to luxuries, if the price of the good increases, people will postpone the consumption of that good. Suppose AC is a luxury good for us. If the price of AC decreases by 5,000 rupees, people will start buying more and more ACs. More people will be buying more ACs. If the price of ACs increases by 5,000, so say from 30,000 to 35,000, people will postpone it for some other time. So in case of luxuries, as there is no compulsion to consume it, luxuries are not necessary. They are not necessaries. There is no compulsion to consume luxuries. We can survive without luxuries. So if there is change in price, there will be if the price of the luxuries increases, there will be considerable fall in demand. That's why the price elasticity will be greater than 1. But when it comes to necessaries, we have to consume it. So there is no other option. So even though when there is change in price, there is very small change in demand. That's why it is less than 1. Right. Third determinant is the possibility of postponement. If there is possibility of postponement, then the price elasticity will be greater than 1. If consumption cannot be postponed, the price elasticity will be less than 1. So same thing we have discussed earlier, right? In case of luxuries, if there is change in price, if the price increases, we can postpone the consumption of luxuries. That's why price elasticity will be greater than 1. But when it comes to necessaries, we can't postpone the consumption of necessaries. That's why the price elasticity will be less than 1. Next, the fourth determinant is the number of uses to which a commodity can be put to use. If a good can be used for multiple purposes, then the price elasticity will be greater than 1. Okay, example, milk can be used for not only for drinking but also for cooking purposes. So if the price of milk decreases, more people will demand more quantity of milk. So there will be considerable change in demand. The price elasticity will be greater than 1. But if a good can be put to a limited use only, then price elasticity will be less than 1. Example, generators can be used only for limited purpose. only for limited purpose. If there is change in price of generators, there will be hardly any change in demand. So the price elasticity will be less than 1. Okay. Next, fifth determinant is the consumer habits. If a consumer is habituated to a good, whatever the price may be, he will consume that good now. So there will be hardly any change in demand. That's why price elasticity value will be less than 1. But if a consumer is not a habituated consumer, then definitely he will look after price. He will look at price nana. If the price is more, he will definitely not demand that good. That means that there will be considerable change in demand. As the consumer is habituated to a particular commodity, irrespective of the price of the commodity, he will consume that commodity or good. That's why price elasticity will be less than 1. But when a consumer is not a habituated consumer, price will affect the demand. That's why price elasticity will be greater than 1. Next, price range. Sixth determinant is the price range. How price range affects the price elasticity of demand. If the price of a good is very high or very low and price changes, then there will be very less change in demand. That's why price elasticity will be less than 1. For example, if the price of a car is 5 crores and the price of the car increased further by 30 lakhs, already the price of the car is 5 crores and the price increased by further 30 lakhs now, then there will be hardly any change in demand, because when a person is willing to pay 5 crores, he will pay extra 30 lakhs now. Okay, so when the price of the goods is very high, when the price of the goods are very high, the price elasticity will be less than 1. And when it comes to very low, example salt, price of salt is 10 rupees. So if the price of salt decreases from 10 to 15, there will be hardly any change in demand. And if the price of salt decreases from 10 rupees to 5 rupees, there will be hardly any change in demand. So price elasticity will be less than 1. Okay, next, middle range price. When it comes to middle range price or moderate prices, the prices which are not high or not low. Example, mobile phones, 9,000, 10,000. It's a moderate range price, not very high. Okay. In case of price of middle range, in case of goods of moderate price or middle range price, the price elasticity will be greater than 1. Greater than 1. Okay. Since the price is of moderate range or middle range, there will be, if the price of that good changes, suppose the price of cell phones changes from 9,000 to 15,000, we will definitely postpone the purchases, right? Because there is a considerable change in price of the good. That's why the price elasticity will be greater than 1 in case the price is moderate range or middle range. Next, seventh determinant is the position of the commodity in consumer's budget. So how much amount of money I am spending on that good. If I am spending very small portion, okay, then the price elasticity will be less than 1. Example, newspapers. I am earning 30,000. Out of 30,000, I am spending 300 rupees on newspaper per month. If the bill of newspaper increases from 300 to 350, I am not going to stop newspapers. I will still be reading newspapers, because it is hardly very small amount in my total income. I am earning 30,000. I am spending 300 rupees per month on newspapers. The newspaper price increases, the newspaper bill increases from 300 to 350 because of increase in prices. It doesn't mean that I am going to stop consumption of newspaper. I will still be using the newspapers now. So even though when the price of the newspaper bill increases from 300 to 350, there is hardly any change in demand, because it is very small portion out of my total income, because I am spending very small portion out of my total income. That's why the price elasticity will be less than 1. If greater portion of income is spent, then price elasticity will be greater than 1. I am earning 30,000 and out of 30,000 I am spending 10,000 on rent. 10,000 on rent. So almost 1/3, that is 1/3 of my salary, 1/3 of my income. If the house rent increases from 10,000 to say 12,000, definitely I will go for alternatives, right? I will go for cheaper houses. I will go for houses which are of less rent now. So there will be considerable change in demand. That's why the price elasticity will be greater than 1. Next, time period. Eighth determinant is time period. In short period means the consumer does not have sufficient time to change according to the prices. That's why there will be less change in demand and the price elasticity value will be less than 1. Long period. In long period, the consumer has sufficient time to change according to the changes in price. That's why there will be considerable change in demand, so price elasticity will be greater than 1. Price elasticity will be greater than. Below example is given, So if the price of petrol increases, overnight I am not going to change. I am using a big car, and suddenly if the price of petrol increases, then overnight I am not going to change my car. What I will do, I will go for fewer trips. I will make fewer trips only. Okay, in short period, what I will do in order to reduce my expenditure, I will make fewer trips only. So demand for petrol will fall in short run. But in long run, what I will do now, I will shift from big car to smaller car, and along with that I make few trips now. So compared to short run, the change in demand in long run is very large. That's why in long run the price elasticity is greater than 1, and in short run price elasticity is one. In short run and long run, both the periods now the demand is changing. But compared to short run, in long run we are changing the car and making few trips. In short run we are just making the few trips now. But in long run I am shifting to car which gives more mileage. That is, I am changing the car as well as I am making fewer trips. That's why compared to short run and long run, the price elasticity will be greater than 1. Next. Okay, right now. Next, demand distinctions. If the goods have tight demand, that means goods are complementary, that is direct demand, then the price elasticity will be less than 1. If the goods have autonomous demand, then the price elasticity will be greater than 1. So these are the determinants of price elasticity of demand. Next, importance of price elasticity of demand to business managers. In what way the price elasticity of demand is important to business managers? A business managers would always like to, any business manager is doing a business to earn profits now. So his profits depends on his pricing strategy. Profits depends on pricing strategy. The optimum pricing, if he has the optimum pricing strategy, he can earn more profits now. For this purpose, what he does now, basing on the elasticity, he will fix the prices. If the good is elastic, he will fix lower prices, and if the good is inelastic, he will fix higher prices. He will fix higher prices now, because if the good is inelastic, he can earn more. As he increases profits, he can earn more revenue, and his profit, as he increases prices, he can earn more revenue, and the profits will increase. Okay, so basing on the elasticity, the producer will fix the prices. So in this way, price elasticity is important to business managers. And how the price elasticity is important to demand? How the price elasticity is important to government? Government also provide goods and services to the public, right? So in order to fix prices of these goods and services, the government will use price elasticity of demand, the same way which the producer used, right? And in order to fix taxes also, on which goods the government has to fix higher taxes, that also will be dependent on the price elasticity. Government uses price elasticity of demand. If the good has inelastic demand, government fixes higher taxes. Government fixes higher taxes. Goods having inelastic demand. Okay, so in this way, price elasticity of demand is helpful to government and business managers. So this is all about price elasticity of demand. Next, income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand. So income demand. Income demand, we try to explain the relationship. Explain the relationship between income and demand. Income of a consumer and demand of a good. For this purpose, goods have been divided into two, right? One is superior good or normal good. Second one is inferior good. Okay, so in case of superior goods, the relationship between income and demand is positive. In case of inferior goods, the relationship between income and demand is negative. Okay, again the superior goods have been divided into three, right? Again the superior goods have been divided into three, that is necessaries, comforts, luxuries. So when the relationship between income and demand is negative, the income elasticity will be equal to, the income elasticity will be less than 0. Okay, right. So in case of necessaries, the income elasticity will be less than 1 and greater than 0, and in case of income elasticity will be equal to 1. Okay, and in case of luxuries, the income elasticity will be greater than 1. Okay, Nana, right? So in income demand, try to explain the relationship between income and income of the consumer and demand of the good, Nana. So in order to measure the change in demand due to change in income, we use income elasticity. In order to measure the change in demand due to in order to measure the degree of responsiveness of demand of a given change in income. So in order to measure the change in demand due to change in income, we use income elasticity of demand. We use income elasticity of demand. So formula is percentage change in demand divided by percentage change in income. That is delta Q by delta P into 100 by delta Y by delta into 100. So for price elasticity of demand, we use the formula delta Q by delta P into P by Q, right? So in place of P, we will use Y. In place of P, we will use Y. Now, so delta Q by delta P into P by Q. Okay. So as you can see here that we will have negative as well as positive price elasticity. We will have negative as well as positive income elasticity. Positive income elasticity, not price elasticity. Positive income elasticity. No. So as we are having both negative values and positive values here we have negative and remaining are all positive. So as we have negative value here as well as positive value in income elasticity, there is no scope of ignoring the negative sign. We have to consider the negative sign also. We can't ignore the negative sign. So when the relationship between income and demand is negative, when the relationship is income and demand is negative, the income elasticity will be less than 0. That is called as negative income elasticity. A type of the good is inferior goods. So generally inferior goods are negative income elasticity. Okay. Next, when the income elasticity is between 0 and 1, that is called as low income elasticity, and the type of good is necessary. So as I explained here itself. Okay. It is greater than 0 but less than 1. Okay, Nana. Next, when income elasticity is greater than 1, it means high income elasticity, and the type of good which have high income elasticity is luxury goods. And if the income elasticity is equal to 1, it is called as unitary income elasticity, and type of the good which has unitary income elasticity is comforts. If the income elasticity is equal to 0, that is called as zero income elasticity, salt, buttons, etc. Type of the goods are salts, buttons, etc. Salts, buttons, etc. That means that even though there is a change in income, there will be no change in demand for these goods. That is salts and buttons don't change. If my income increases, it doesn't mean that I am going to have 10 or 15 buttons on my shirt, right? Buttons will be the same, and if my income increases, I am not going to consume more salt. So with the change in income, certain goods demand does not change. Such type of goods have zero income elasticity. So when the relationship is negative, the income demand curve will be downward sloping. Okay. So as you can see here, the income demand curve, when income elasticity is less than 0, will be downward sloping. And when the income elasticity is equal to 0, it will be parallel to y-axis. And when the income elasticity is equal to 1, the income demand curve will be 45-degree line. It will be 45-degree line. And when the income elasticity is greater than 1, it will be slanter 1, positive slope and slanter 1. When the income elasticity is less than 1, it will be steeper and positive slope. So if the relationship is negative between income and demand, the demand curve will be downward sloping. And in case of positive relationship, demand curve will be upward sloping. And when the income elasticity is equal to 0, it will be parallel to y-axis, because even though income changes, the demand of the commodity does not change. Okay, Nana? So this is all about income elasticity of demand. Next, relationship between income elasticity of a good and proportion of income spent. So what is the relationship between? So how the income elasticity changes? When the proportion of income spent changes. Okay, right. So basing on the relationship between change in income and percentage of income spent, income elasticity. What is the value of income elasticity? Okay, right. So if the when the income increases, if the proportion of income spent on the good increases, then the income elasticity value will be greater than 1. When the income elasticity value will be greater than 1. If income increases, when income increases, the percentage of income spent on the good decreases, then the income elasticity is less than 1. If income increases and there is no change in percentage of income spent, then the income elasticity value equal to 1. That is, if income increases by 10% and percentage of income spent on good also percentage of income spent on the good increases by, let us say, it also increases now, that is 8% or 9, whatever it may be, 12%, then the income elasticity value will be greater than 1. The income elasticity value will be greater than 1. If the income increases 10%, but percentage of income spent decreases. Earlier we were spending 10%. Now we are spending only 5%. Then the income elasticity value will be less than 1. Okay, right. Let me explain it in much clearer way. Right. Earlier when my income was 10,000, I used to spend 10%. Now when my income increases from 10,000 to 20,000, I started spending more, that is 15%. So percentage of income spent increased, right? So then the income elasticity value will be greater than 1. Now when my income increases, in second case, when my income increases from 10,000 to 20,000, percentage of income spent, earlier it was 10%, now it is 5% only. So there is a decrease in percentage of income spent, then the income elasticity value will be less than 1. When percentage of income increases from 10,000 to 20,000, earlier also I am spending 10% and now also I am spending 10%. So there is no change in percentage of income spent, then the income elasticity value will be equal to 1. Okay, right now. So as you can see here, if the proportion of income spent, proportion means nothing but percentage, if the proportion of income spent on a good remains the same as income increases, then the income elasticity will be equal to 1. If the proportion of income spent on good increases as income increases, then the income elasticity will be greater than 1. If the proportion of income spent on good decreases as income increases, then the income elasticity will be less than 1. The income elasticity will be less than 1. Okay, so you need to be careful in this regard, Nana, because you may get confused. You may get confused here with the total outlay, total expenditure method. Total outlay, total expenditure is different, and the relationship between income and percentage of income spent is different, Nana, is different. So you need to be careful. Next, importance of income elasticity of demand to business firm. How this income elasticity of demand to business firm is important. Now, in order to manufacture good, we need to study demand. So as the demand changes, producer also would like to change their production. So when the income of the consumer increases, producers will demand more and more superior goods, and when the income of the consumer decreases, producers will demand more and more inferior goods. When the income increases, producers will demand superior goods. When the income decreases, producers will demand inferior goods. So basing on this relationship, producer has to decide whether he needs to produce superior goods or inferior goods. When the income of the consumer is increasing, it is better for him to produce superior goods, and when the income of the consumer is decreasing, it is better to produce inferior goods. Then only he can earn profits. So it helps him in estimating future demand for his products. Okay, and also the business cycle. So if the income of the consumer increases, it is expansion. If the income of the consumer decreases, it is contraction. So in expansion phase, superior goods will have more demand. In contraction phase, inferior goods will have more demand. So basing on this study, he can plan accordingly. And produce goods so that he can earn more profits. Okay. So next type of elasticity is cross elasticity of demand. Right. Cross elasticity of demand. Right. So cross demand. In cross demand, we try to explain the relationship between price of one good and demand for another good. These goods can be either substitutes or complementaries. These goods can be either substitutes or complementaries. Okay, so substitutes, what do you mean by substitutes? Two goods are considered to be substitutes if one good can be used in place of another good to satisfy a want. So there are two goods. If one good can be used in place of another good to satisfy a want, then these two goods are called as substitutes. And what are complementaries? In order to satisfy our want, we need to consume two or more goods together. Such type of goods are called as complementary. So example for complementary is car and petrol. Example for substitutes is Pepsi and Coke. So in case of substitutes, the relationship is positive. Price of Pepsi, demand for Coke. The relationship is positive. When the relationship is positive, the elasticity value will be. When the relationship is positive, the relationship is positive. In case of complementaries, when the relationship between price of car and demand for petrol, negative. So in order to measure the change in demand due to change in price of another commodity, in order to measure the change in demand of one commodity due to change in price of another commodity, we use cross elasticity of demand. Cross elasticity of demand. In case where the relationship is positive between two goods, the cross elasticity of demand will be positive, that is greater than 0. And in case the relationship between two commodities is negative, the cross elasticity value will also be negative. Okay, so in cross elasticity of demand, we will study what is the percentage change in quantity of demand of X to a percentage change in price of related commodity Y. So what will be in cross elasticity of demand? We try to measure the change in quantity demand of one commodity due to change in price of another commodity. So the formula which is used for cross elasticity of demand is percentage change in quantity demand of X divided by percentage change in price of Y. That is delta Qx by delta Py into Py by Qx. Py by Qx. So types of cross elasticity of demand. So generally, how many types of cross elasticity of demand we have? Right. The cross elasticity of demand will be positive in case of substitutes. The cross elasticity of demand is negative in case of complementaries. So since when two goods are substitutes and the relationship between them is positive, the cross elasticity will be also positive. And when the relationship between two goods is negative, as they are complementaries, the cross elasticity value for complementaries will be negative. And if the cross elasticity value is 0, the two goods are unrelated goods or independent goods. And if cross elasticity value is infinity, they are called as perfect substitutes. And if cross elasticity value is minus infinity, here it is not given, and if the cross elasticity value is minus infinity, then those goods are called as perfect complementaries. Okay, so how this cross elasticity of demand is useful to business firms? Every firm would like to know what are the factors which are affecting the demand. That is, how the price of the commodity is affecting demand, and not only the price of the commodity, how the price of related commodity is also affecting the demand. Right? So every producer would like to know, are there any substitutes in the market for the good which I am producing, or are there any complementaries in the market for the good which I am producing? If there are substitutes and complementaries for my good, then I have to plan accordingly. Okay, if there are more substitutes in the market, then I have to be very careful when changing the prices. When I'm changing the prices now, because if I increase the prices, people will shift to the substitutes, and my demand will drastically fall, and it will lead to loss in revenue for me. And if there are complementaries, there is no such worry now. And if there are complementaries, then I can increase the prices, because since the goods are complementaries, even though I have increased the prices, people have to consume those goods. So producer would like to know whether there are any substitutes and complementaries, and basing on this information, he will fix the prices. In such way, the cross elasticity of demand is useful to business firms. Next, promotional elasticity of demand or advertisement elasticity of demand. So in advertisement elasticity of demand, we study how the demand or sales what is the percentage change in demand or sales due to 1% change in attachment. Due to 1% change in attachment. So the attachment elasticity of demand measures the percentage change in demand that occurs due to 1% change in attachment expenditure. So if the company increases its expenditure, it would like to know how much demand increased, whether it is more than what I have incurred as attachment expenditure, it is less than that. So typically the relationship between relationship between advertisement expenditure and demand will be positive. That is, as the advertisement expenditure increases, the demand will also increase. Since the relationship is positive, the value lies between 0 and infinity. The value lies between 0 and infinity. So to calculate advertisement elasticity of demand, the advertisement elasticity value lies between 0 and infinity as the relationship is positive. To calculate advertisement elasticity of demand, we use the formula change in demand, percentage change in demand divided by percentage change in advertisement expenditure. That is delta Q by delta A into A by delta Q. So advertisement elasticity. So EA equal to delta Q by delta A into A by Q. Okay, right. So as the attachment elasticity will be positive, right? So it lies between 0 and infinity. So if the attachment elasticity is equal to 0, it means that even though when there is change in attachment expenditure, there is no change in demand. If the attachment elasticity value lies between 0 and 1, it means that the change in demand is less when compared to change in attachment expenditure. If the attachment elasticity value is equal to 1, it means that the percentage change in demand is equal to the percentage change in attachment expenditure. And if attachment elasticity of demand is greater than 1, it means that increase in demand of a good is more than increase in attachment expenditure. Increase in attachment expenditure. Okay. So what are the objectives of advertisement? What are the objectives of advertisement or any other sales promotion activity? The main objective of the advertisement is to increase the demand. It is to increase the demand. So if the demand increases due to advertisement, the demand curve will shift to the right. And more the advertisement we do, the elasticity of demand will decrease. If we keep on advertising a commodity, it will get imprinted in the minds of the consumer, and definitely he will go and demand our products only because he has seen our advertisement multiple times. So a producer not only advertises to increase the demand for his commodity, but also advertises to create a sort of inelasticity of demand for his goods. Okay, so these are the objectives of advertisement elasticity. Okay, so with this topic we have completed the elasticity of demand. Thank you.
Hi students, just now you have watched a sample of RRB videos available in Masterminds app for all the subjects of CA Foundation. If you like this video and if you are interested to purchase the entire course of a particular subject, that means entire RRB videos of a particular subject, yes, they are available right in your hands. So open your mobile phone and please do install an app called Masterminds Online Classes, which is available in Google Play Store. After that, enter your particulars and in the home screen you will find an option called Store. Please click that option and these are all the filters. So one of the filters you will be able to see is CA Foundation RRB. If you click this option, you will find the RRB videos of all the subjects. And whatever the subject you want, you can purchase through this app. So it's not required for you to purchase the RRBs of all the subjects. Whatever the subject you like, you can purchase the same. And even mathematics, statistics and reasoning are being uploaded as 3 separate subjects. And for each subject we have given detailed explanation of sometimes 30 to 40 hours. So in just a matter of 30 to 40 hours, you will be able to revise the entire subject. That is the beauty of these RRB videos. And you can even watch these videos in iOS platform. If you belong to iOS platform, please do install an app called Class Plus and enter the organization code as MZGun. then you will be able to access all these videos in iOS platform also. My dear students, if you have any academic issues, please do send a mail to my mail ID mssprakash2012@gmail.com. And my dear students, not only RRB videos, all the videos related to CA Foundation are available in the same app. So, for example, CA Foundation regular batch videos of all the subjects, CA Foundation crash batch videos of all the subjects, and sometimes CA Foundation chapter wise videos of some important chapters are also available in the same app. So, if you are interested to buy a particular subject, then you can purchase the same through this app. So either CA Foundation regular batch or crash batch videos are already available here. So through this app, at the convenience of your mobile phone, you can watch any videos of your choice without any human intervention, and you can pay the amount through various options. So my dear students, I hope that all of you will enjoy these services. All the best. Let's have a glimpse into the roots of the Masterminds. So Masterminds were established in 2002 and is undeniably the pioneer and the leader in MEC, CA and CMA coaching in India, with a lion's share of nearly 20,000 admissions per annum. It is an incredible initiative by three visionary edupreneurs. That is me, MSS Prakash, Chartered Accountant, my brother Mohan, my sister-in-law Radha, from the same family at a very young age under the successful mentorship of our father, Mr. M. Sivaprasad. Within the shortest span, our presence have expanded to almost all major cities of AP and Telangana. We are humbled to say that very soon we want to expand to the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu also, so especially with the wishes and support of all our old students. We offer best quality services for MEC with integrated coaching for CRCMA Foundation. Exclusive MEC CEC coaching is also available. Regular class, study hours and revision exams, MMTS services for all the levels of CSCMA courses. And recently we launched a unique academic program called MEC Pro, aiming the students who aspire to pursue BBA, CLAT or MBA in future rather than CSCMA courses, and we have received excellent response. So our students have achieved first rank for 47 times in various courses that we offer coaching. Till now, our students have bagged 977 All India ranks in all the stages of CSCMA courses. So 98 All India ranks in a single attempt of CMA inter and final exams, and 180 All India ranks in CSCMA courses in 2019 and 20 alone. So 3 All India first ranks in the year 2020 alone. So right now we have around 150 batches of various courses in Guntur and all our branches together.